All right, guys, we're live. Thank you very much for waiting so patiently in the live chat, and thank you very much for joining us today for this podcast. We've got a bumper show for you. Hopefully, this is a show that you enjoy. I've been meaning to talk to Abhijit about the whole China issue and the standoff and what comes next and all of that stuff. So I thought we can invite it on the chat with Kushal and have a big old podcast. So first and foremost, before we get started, help me welcome to the show, Abhijit. Hi, Abhijit.
Jai Bhavani.
Jai Bhavani. And Kushal. Hi, Kushal.
Namaste. Jai Shri Ram.
Jai Shri Ram to everybody as well. All right, so let me start with you, Abhijit, since this is an episode where we're discussing China prominently. So with after the clashes took place, there was talk of escalation, and then apparently there were these talks between the two armies, and the talks were pretty prolonged. What's the situation as of now, where we stand right now?
So as of now, we've agreed to disengage at Galwan and at Gogra, which is the hot springs.
Yes.
So if this is the line of actual control, Galwan is in the north, Gogra is in between, and then Pangong is there. Pangong is going to be a tough negotiation because they've put up a lot of tents and things like that out there, and they are not willing to move back at all. So everything I'm hearing is that Galwan will...
Sorry, didn't you also say that there was a lot of build-up around the Gogra region as well?
Yeah. There's a huge armored buildup around Gogra, but they're not in our territory in Gogra anymore. We've gone and put up a forward base right where they come in, so they can't come in anymore. And at Galwan, I'm very curious to see, because we should see signs of the disengagement very, very quickly, because they've been building a road right up to the LAC, possibly 100 meters inside the LAC.
Wow.
We have to see if they have gone back. We'll have the satellites up tomorrow again, so we'll see. See, the issue is if you do it every day, the differences aren't very noticeable. You have to wait for a 3-4 day period to be able to compare any serious differences with the previous 3-4 days, and then you can tell what shape the disengagement has taken. We're probably going to see that. We've definitely seen a stoppage of construction as of the 22nd of June in Galwan. In Gogra, there's nothing much to do really, because as it is, both the forces are quite far from the border. But the Indian camp is quite close to the border, so I want to see what happens to the Indian camp. What does disengagement in Gogra mean? And in Pangong, I'm going to continue to surveil it and see what comes out.
And one of the things that I think it came out in India today recently, that they had negotiated some kind of like backing down on both sides, but I think I saw that they'd started to build like a tent again on the LAC. I think was it in Galwan or was it in Gogra?
Look, they did not build a tent. They've built some kind of crude stone structures in Galwan.
Okay.
Now, I think they're Chinese. My friend Nitin Gokhale thinks they're Indian, and we've re-established control on the other side of the river. But let's see. It will become clear in a few days as to what's happened in Galwan and Gogra. Galwan was where they'd come in.
Right.
I believe there's 200 meters inside our territory. Let's see. Day after tomorrow, anyway, by Monday or by Tuesday, we'll have a much clearer image of what's happened.
You know, one of the things that you said, you wrote an article, I believe it was for the print, and you wrote something that really resonated with me. And it really made me think, because you wrote like what the army did in Galwan in their clash with the Chinese army. That said a lot more, or that created some unintended good consequences for Modi, rather than Modi's actual communication after or messaging after the Galwan incident. How do you feel like Modi's actually, handled the communication after the Galwan incident happened?
That piece that you were referring to was in the Deccan Herald.
Oh, my
Now,
bad. Deccan Herald.
The thing is that, look, there's no easy way of saying it. Modi's communication has been bad throughout. Be it with Delhi riots, be it with this. You need to come out and talk to your people. You need to assure your people. And it's more than that. It's how you set the narrative. When the Prime Minister comes out and says something, you don't talk about it in esoteric terms. You get into the specifics. You take your country into confidence. You tell them what's happened. This should have been done with the Delhi riots. It needed to be done with this. He's failed in both. And the consequence of not doing it with the Delhi riots was that body, the USCIRF, the International Religious Council on International Religious, whatever it was, the only thing they had to depend on for their report were all the news reports which were saying, it's a pogrom and this and that. And, you can then posture and do all this stuff later and deny them with visas, but then the damage is already done because that's the other side of the story that's made it to the printed record. Sadly, that's exactly what's happening with this thing as well. I don't think it's good politics because, this happened with Doklam as well. If you remember, they wanted, the MEA wanted room to carry out their own negotiations and things like that and calm the situation down, which is fine. The problem is, we know what happened at Doklam. We won a tactical victory and it was a strategic loss because what we gained at Doklam, the shock we gained at Doklam, was then squandered at Wuhan. And the Chinese built the road anyway, and it's now completely under Chinese control. Bhutan will, in all probability, have to cede the territory because they've got no room to sort of negotiate anymore. Now, with this, I was kind of hoping. So Modi learned some lessons. So, for example, he called Nawaz Sharif over for his first swearing in. But then when it wasn't working out, he was quite happy to cut him loose. He might have done the same with Xi, but he's still not learning the communications lesson, which is highly problematic. Because in all these things, the posturing, the messaging, everything's important. He also made a factual error in his speech where he said the Chinese are not in Indian territory. They're very much in Indian territory. They're not on the Indian side of the LAC. There's things like this which you need to be very, very careful, very, very nuanced when you're talking about. I understand Hindi isn't a language that lends itself to much nuance, but then at least not the nuance that English does, but there has to be a bit more nuance out there.
Do you think that, and Kushal, I want to ask you as well, let me just ask you the same question too for a second, that in terms of like communication, have you also felt that there's been like a problem with the communication with the Modi government? I mean, we've already discussed how it's been a problem post-Kashmir, post-370. It's been a problem post or during and post the Delhi riots, which really lends itself, kind of leaves itself vulnerable to attacks from unsavory people. But have you felt the same way? Do you kind of agree with Abhijit there? Have you felt the same way with Galwan as well?
I have a slightly different take. So first of all, we have to delineate when we say communication, what is the ultimate aim of the communication? Because unfortunately, and while I agree with Abhijit, the point is that Indian politics still hovers around what I call the 5-year syndrome. You only think about what is needed for the 5-year, and Abhijit is a person who always thinks about long-term communication when it comes to foreign policy. Because, and not that Abhijit is wrong, Abhijit is absolutely right. Foreign policy is based on, it doesn't matter who's in power. Foreign policy is a narrative of a nation that goes out irrespective of whether the Congress was in power or the BJP is in power. Unfortunately, politics is not like that. So real politics has kind of trumped foreign policy in many situations, which is unfortunate. But as far as the communication is concerned, communication to whom should be the question, right? And communication for what? Then the second question should be communication for what? In my view, the communication, the reason Narendra Modi is not pushed enough for being more specific is because the numbers say he doesn't need to. Let's just be blatantly honest. That's just the political reality of India. Even the recent poll that came out, which was to my utter horror, that even after this, people were like, "नहीं साडा ते चंगा है, साडा बंदा अच्छा है." अबे उसने कुछ बोला भी नहीं तो भी क्यों अच्छा है?
Yeah.
मगर नहीं बोला तो भी अच्छा है, बोला तो भी अच्छा है, मतलब कुछ भी करो अच्छा है.
I mean, that's what Abhijit was talking about when he said the sort of inadvertent consequence of what the army did. The fact that the army was able to give such a response to the Chinese, that kind of reflects, automatically reflects well on Modi, even though Modi didn't have any hand in it. Yeah.
And you have to understand the amount of trust, Sham, whether we like it or not, the amount of trust Narendra Modi has or carries, the amount of faith the people of India have on Narendra Modi is unheard of. At least I have not, maybe Indira Gandhi at her peak at some point of time before her emergency avatar might have carried, or Nehru in some time might have carried this level of trust. See, I don't think so. The people of India trusted Rajiv Gandhi the way they trusted Indira or Nehru in that sense. Rajiv Gandhi had a sympathy wave, but that does not transfer into trust. The thing with Narendra Modi is we may say what we want to say, but the people of India trust the man.
Yeah.
Now, we that doesn't mean our analysis changes. But the facts of the ground also don't change. But my question to Abhijit was something very different. I wanted to understand a technical thing. So Abhijit, you just mentioned that there was a difference of opinion in you and Nitin Gokhale about the satellite imagery. So why is that? So how are you basing your conclusion that the Chinese have come 200 meters in? What are those points? Can you share that with us?
Sure, 100 meters in, not 200 meters in. Okay. I'll tell you what it is. On the 8th of June, we had a sort of shallow bridge connecting the two sides of the river. And this was when the Chinese had come and pitched a tent in that inverted triangle. What then happened was, on the 22nd of May, when we took that patch of territory back, clearly something had happened to that bridge. We had to put a narrow footbridge, and the river there is quite deep, right? It's about 20-30 feet deep at least. Not something you can just ford across walking. So what happened was we had put this very, very narrow footbridge. And then what happened is, of course, that begs the question, why did we put a footbridge? Clearly, there's something that's happened to that bigger bridge that we had on the tip of that triangle. Then, and we can see all of this because the water is absolutely dry. On the 18th of August, on the 16th of August, or is it 18th? 18th of June, what we see is the flow has resumed because the dam was destroyed, or either we destroyed it or they agreed to dismantle it. But it submerged the original bridge, confirming the fact that the bridge or whatever it was destroyed. And the footbridge is no longer visible. So we lost all kind of access to the other side of the river, to that 100 meters of territory that belonged to us. And there was some rudimentary construction starting out there. By the 22nd of June, again, there is no direct access between the Indian side and the other side. And the construction has progressed quite significantly. Now, the thing here is, how are you constructing on the other side without access? Okay, bridges aren't laid and then removed every 5 hours. You construct it and you leave it out there, including a military bridge. We did not see military bridge layers. You get these army trucks kind of thing that go into the water and then lay a bridge direct. There is none of that visible. So the belief that I have based on those images is that it is in fact Chinese. It isn't Indian.
Okay. Let me ask you something, Abhijit, and I believe there was a question in the super chat as well. Oh, there it is. It's from Anand Sridhar as well. And so Pompeo made a statement today about Chinese sort of aggression towards its neighbors, and he also talked about Pompeo moving warships into the South China Sea. What do you make of that? Do you see that as the United States sort of actively taking a position in the China conflict, or in trying to maybe use this as an opportunity to sort of clamp down on Chinese hegemony?
Absolutely. They're trying to do to China what America tried to do to us during the Bangladesh war. Right. You remember they sent the fleet into the Bay of Bengal to sort of force us to back off, kind of thing. That's what they're doing in the South China Sea. They're trying to send a fleet in order to divert Chinese attention and lessen the pressure on India, which incidentally is a lot more than what the Russians have been doing, which is damn all except giving diplomatic statements.
Yep. So does that what does that indicate to you when it comes to the United States relationship with India? Is this the United States taking a stand with India, or is this again just sort of United States doing what it wants to do for itself?
No, it's very much taking a stand for India and with India.
Interesting.
The problem is that India's response to it will also be muted, and I'll tell you why. For a long time, India and America had the same goal, which was to prevent any one power bloc from monopolizing Asia. The USSR PRC, Russia-China Compact during the Cold War, Sino-Soviet nexus, our aim was always to break that.
Yeah.
And as was the American aim. The problem was Nehru mismanaged it so much. He went on spewing so much bile about America.
Yeah.
Even though we had the same strategic goal, we were on opposite ends. I mean, incredible, isn't it? You really have to be incompetent to the next level to mismanage when you have the exact same strategic goal, for there to be so much bitterness and animosity between the two of you is, it's really diplomatic incompetence at the next level. Today, the situation is different. America believes that, screw Russia, screw China, they can get together, it's not going to affect us. We're willing to take the two of you on. That is still not India's opinion. We still need the two of them divided. But America is happy with the two of them getting together, Russia and China. They're not happy with Russia, China, and India getting together. So India has to get out of that trio. So you see the difference now is that India wants to break up Russia, China. America does not want to break up Russia, China. If we have to balance against China, we have to go with America because Russia won't. If we go with America, then Russia goes closer to China, which we can't tolerate.
Right. But
this is the fundamental contradiction between the American goal and the Indian goal. We cannot get closer to America because we need to see Russia stays away from China. But we can't balance off against China till we have America on our side. So it's
what is
one of those
what is the need for India to, if China gets closer to Russia, how does it necessarily affect India? Like
a lot of things.
Sure.
For starters, it then becomes complete geopolitical encirclement. You look at all the Central Asian countries, they'll all domino fall. Right now, they're playing off China against Russia.
Yeah.
That will stop immediately because so you'll have an arc around us. All of Central Asia, Russia, China, Pakistan, Iran, are all arrayed then against us. Now, a lot of countries would not be afraid of that. India is dead scared of that because we've never been able to get our economic act together or our military act together.
Yeah.
Right? Now, it's easy for the Americans to say that because they're very confident of their military capabilities. The problem is we're not. And we'll be the frontline state because if China decides to dismantle anyone, we'll be prime, literally pain in the ass, number one, because we're the closest, biggest nuclear armed neighbor that they have. That is not compliant to their wishes. So that is the problem.
So does it really matter to the United States that much? Like if, let's say, India doesn't want Russia and China to be together, I don't see that as necessarily something that the United States would be fundamentally opposed to. Like it shouldn't really be something that, I mean, I don't know if United States necessarily wants India and Russia and China to be together. If Russia and China were apart, I'm sure that wouldn't bother the United States either, right?
It won't bother them, but they're not counting on it because as far as they're concerned, China is a dangerous country in Asia, but Russia is an equally dangerous country in Europe.
Yeah.
Right? They have their NATO allies to look after. So Poland, Latvia, Lithuania, Estonia. What happened to Ukraine in the Crimea? What happened to Georgia becomes highly problematic for them in Europe. And what China is doing in Asia is highly problematic for them in Asia. So the thing here is that before, there was this belief that Russia's suspicion of China was so great that Russia will never ever bandwagon with China. Today, the net animosity between Russia and the West is so great that Russia has no option other than to bandwagon with China. It's almost become a monopsonistic situation because nobody wants to buy Russian commodities other than Germany to some extent and China. And China pays a lot less for Russian gas than Germany does.
Right.
So it's something the Russians wanted to avoid, but reality has forced Russia into a dragon hug, if you want to call it that. Right. And look, they don't have options. They don't have options, so they're going to end up being the junior partner to China. And it's not what the Russians want. The Russians want us on board because they're saying, look, we're going into Chinese orbit. We can't stand up to the Chinese. But if the two of us are in the Chinese camp, then we can keep undermining China from within.
Right.
And India doesn't want to do that either because we're not confident of our abilities of undermining China from within.
Yeah, that is interesting. And there's a question related to that. This is from tryped.gg. He's asking, do you think India should now initiate a diplomatic and strategic offensive against CCP and its allies, like supporting Tibet, Uyghurs, Taiwan, and Hong Kong, and also arming Vietnam with weapons? I mean, this sounds pretty intuitive, but is that something, do you think, that the Indian government is thinking about?
No, they're not. We're cowards. We're congenitally cowards. I think, I think my friend Sushant Sareen said this, that sometime in 700 AD, when we discovered the zero, we were so taken in by our discovery that we decided to reduce ourselves collectively to the zero. So we're Golgappas. There was that soldier who said, "Kya Golgappa khayega tu?"
Golgappa khayega, yeah.
हम गोलगप्पा खाते खाते गोलगप्पे बन गए.
Yeah. So it is weird though, because these things are pretty intuitive. Like China is happy to do it, right?
They are.
Yeah.
So look, we're a nation of cowards. Every time we don't want to fight, when we don't have the balls to fight, we just intellectualize it and philosophize it and say ahimsa and peace and kumbaya and blah blah nonsense. So we don't have it in us to fight. That is the fundamental problem out here.
That's the problem, though. Like that's where I'd slightly disagree with you, obviously, Abhijit, because if you look at the army, the army is, I mean, sure, it's under-equipped a little bit, without a doubt, but the army doesn't lack the will to fight, or I suppose the willingness to fight. It's just the
problem is they lack investment to fight. They lack intelligently investing in resources. In fact, the army is making the same mistake that we've been making for the last 1,300 years, which is what? Till the 18th century, we did not have an Indian horse because there's no pasture land for horses to grow and breed. What do? You come up with infantry tactics to stop horses. All the other countries never obsessed over horses, and they came up with tactics to stop the horse. In India, we never did. It was constantly this obsession with what we did not have. Horses. And we destroyed ourselves in the process. As far back as Crécy was in 1300 and something, and Agincourt was 1405,
right,
where the Welsh longbowmen destroyed the French heavy cavalry during the 100 Years' War. Why is it that these people were able to destroy heavy cavalry, and you were throughout, right up to the 17 and 1800s, completely obsessed with heavy cavalry to the point you were bleeding yourself dry importing horses that you couldn't sustain and going on coming up with cavalry tactics after cavalry tactics after cavalry tactics.
Right.
Today we do the same thing. It's just the cavalry is a different thing. It's called technology. We keep pursuing what is excellent. The Arabian mare, which was great, or the Arabian steed, which was great for an attack. Today is the American fighter or the Swedish fighter. Okay, we want it. That innovate your way out of it.
Right.
Okay, we don't invest in our troops. We keep making. Today, you spend $60 to $70 billion a year on defense. Okay, more than France, more than Germany, possibly the same as Britain, and yet you don't even have 1/10 of their infrastructure or their industrial capacity to build your own weapons. Shame. Okay, so here's the problem. Our army doesn't lack courage. It is the government that lacks vision. And by the government, I don't mean just the BJP or the Congress. It's systemic. It doesn't matter who is in power. It is the government of India that lacks the vision, the spine, the diplomatic capacity. We have no diplomatic capacity to, you have individual diplomats who are brilliant, who are able to message, who are able to understand. But when 90% of you are mediocrities, the 10% can't compensate for the 90%. You're only as strong as your weakest link in the chain. That is the problem out here.
Yeah, it is. And I wanted to ask Abhijit this as well, but let me bring in Kushal first. Kushal, we've been seeing, the United States and India have become closer than before under Modi and Trump, and they seem to have developed a good personal relationship, and that's obviously positively affected the relationship between the US and India to an extent. But despite, Pompeo talking about standing with India and its sort of democratic allies in the South China Sea region, despite that, why is India still insistent? क्या बीमारी है कि अभी भी हमको non-aligned movement की meetings attend करनी है? पिछले 2 साल से नहीं की थी. But what happened that made Modi attend the NAM meeting this year? Like, why are we still persisting with it?
Well, we're persisting with it because we are confused. So as far as the Indian and American relationship is concerned, I think Modi's relationship with Obama also was not as bad, all that bad, right? Modi's relationship in terms of whether his relationship with Obama was concerned or whether his relationship with Trump. I actually don't know what Modi's relationship with Trump is and whether it can be qualified as something good or bad. I honestly, I am skeptical on that account because with Trump, you never know. He's all over the place, right? I mean,
I feel like he's a transactional kind of guy. You give him something and he'll give you something.
Yeah. So to say what is the individual relationship with Trump and Modi is very hard to comment. But that's not the issue here. I think in fact, this is my conundrum. Like we always like to criticize non-alignment. So now let us take what Abhijit had said. So it's quite clear that we can't afford to piss Russia off beyond the limit, right? I mean, so we're all in agreement there. At the same time, we need the Americans, right? But at the same time, we know we should be siding with the Americans because in the longer run, it gives us more benefit in terms of trade, in terms of technology, in terms of economic benefits. But then somewhere down the line, you will see the non-alignment guys saying, this is why we want non-alignment, right?
Yeah.
So how do you counter that? That's what I'm not able to grapple with. Because this is exactly what I mean. That article written by M.K. Narayan, and I think Abhijit had shared it on Twitter too, where Abhijit was not very pleased with the article. Not that it was to please anyone, right. But the point is, once again, the conundrum stands, right? If India goes full on with America, how do we tackle the Russia situation? And then the entire non-alignment argument stems up again. So I don't know how to wiggle around it. There seems to be no wiggling around. And to add on to, what Abhijit was saying about how we're going to deal with China, I think this response, I mean, I saw this photo. I think this is our response to China. This is how we deal with everything anyway, right? So this is how we're going to deal with China. So this is our answer. I mean, हम Chinatown में से C हटा देंगे, हम Hina Town करेंगे और Chinese food.
Basically, Indian Chinese food is anyway not Chinese food. So it's fine that we got rid of the C.
So this is our way. I mean, can you imagine the Chinese are so scared right now because we are eating their food and not even calling it Chinese?
I know. Yeah. Now Chinese get a taste of what it feels like to have intellectual property theft against you.
Yeah.
Now Chinese know.
Maybe we could learn a bit from the Pakistanis too, right? I mean, Pakistanis have been dealing with China far better, I think, than we have. Yeah. Pakistanis ने तो मतलब उनकी strategy सिंपल है ना, हम तो सो गए, चलो आजा भाई, जो करना कर ले मेरे साथ, हम तो सो गए, अभी जो मेरे पास तो कोई आंसर है नहीं, तुझे जो करना है कर ले. So this is the question, Abhijit. So let Abhijit answer this. Abhijit, then how does one wiggle around this non-alignment problem then. If we need Russia and America both, then the non-alignment guys kind of win, right?
I just had one question, one addendum to it though, before you answer, Abhijit. Just one quick point. That just to answer that, like we have seen that in the past few years, India has been able to develop a fairly amicable relationship with Saudi Arabia while maintaining a good relationship with Israel. So, they've seen that, they've shown that something like that is possible. Two competing countries, so to say, and being able to build good relations with both is in theory possible. So go on, Abhijit.
So see, here's the problem. You're assuming the Saudi Arabia-Israel thing happened because of India. It did not.
Sure.
Israel fixed its relations with Saudi Arabia and turned it into a de facto alliance against Iran, which is why we were able to leverage our good ties with Israel into good ties with Saudi Arabia as well. Okay. Remember, India had very little to do with it. What have we done that Nehru and Indira Gandhi did not do before, or Vajpayee did not do before? So right. What is behind this sudden change in the Saudi thing? It has a lot more to do with Israeli diplomacy than it has to do with Indian diplomacy, number one. Okay. Number two, is there a way of keeping Russia on board while getting closer to America? Yes. And that is called being covert. The problem in India is we believe that all our public statements and our private statements have to be aligned with each other. They do not. You can build up a massive level of interoperability with the American Navy and the American Air Force, and which is the main thing in defeating a Chinese threat. And at the same time, keep it covert and under wraps, while continue to buying arms from Russia purely as a testing platform to see how your Western equipment performs against. And everybody stays happy in the process, all right? You continue joint development and things like that with the Russians and so on and so forth. It keeps everybody happy, and you negotiate a modus vivendi with America where you'll mostly support America, except when it comes to anything to do with Russia. And look, the Americans are always open to bargains and deals. This is what we don't understand.
Yeah.
The problem is we think this posturing is somehow deal-making. It is not. Same thing with Taiwan. You don't need to recognize Taiwan, but Taiwan has some of the most exquisite human intelligence as well as electronic intelligence on China. All right, we don't want to engage with the Taiwanese. We don't want to, encourage their businesses to shift their investments from China to India. We treat the Taiwanese like dirt. Even in private, they are so scared to meet the Taiwanese representatives, the quote-unquote trade representatives out here. So the problem here is there's this belief that everything has to be overt. We don't exercise covert options completely separate from overt options. If we do, we don't have the discipline to maintain covert options as covert options. And let me just give you something very, very cute that The Guardian has quoted former NSA Shiv Shankar Menon as saying.
Right.
Today, I keep quoting the other Malayali MK Narayan, who after the Galwan episode said, non-alignment is the best way forward or some crap like that.
Right.
Today, I'm quoting the other Malayali, Shiv Shankar Menon, a brilliant man, by the way, but this is the kind of thing that, then raises my antlers. He's quoted in The Guardian. The ideal position for India is to be closer to both China and the US than they are to each other.
Huh.
It sounds very profound, doesn't it?
Yeah.
When you actually break it down, it's complete bloody gobbledygook. You don't have the capacity to do that. You don't have the economic linkages to do that. You don't have the military linkages to do that. You don't have the international left to be able to do that. Tell me one other country that's managed to pull it off with a far, far superior diplomatic force than we have. How is this going to happen? Give me a pathway. See, these are the things that sound very profound. Okay, everybody was going gaga when the foreign minister said, our current foreign minister said, the US CIRF has an agenda, and then proceeded to deny it visas.
Yeah.
Okay, but tell me, what was the US CIRF meant to do except go on newspaper reports of what had been reported?
Yeah, because that's damage control at that point. That's damage control,
you did not preempt it or prevent it.
Yep.
And then you act like a petulant little child. And guess what? Indians are the kind of dumb F morons that actually celebrate and tali bajao this kind of nonsense.
Yeah.
Not one of them had the bloody, in their Golgappa brains, had the thing to ask, what did you do to preempt or prevent this?
Yeah.
Where was your strategic communications during the Delhi riots?
Yeah.
Okay, this is like me going and I don't know, basically ensuring, I slap around people and la-di-da-di, get beaten black and blue by somebody, and then come back and say, "Tu kutta hai, tu kamina hai," and everybody goes, "Wah wah, Abhijit bhaiya, aapne kya bol diya bhaiya?" Oy, oy, oy. Even though my eyes are black and blue, my gallbladder is damaged, I need a kidney replacement, I need a knee replacement from the way that bugger beat me.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, think about it. Like,
No, seriously, are you people morons? I've never seen a nation that's so goddamn stupid like you people are. I mean, seriously, get yourself sterilized, for crying out loud.
I mean, even think about, like, even before this, remember CAA. I remember very distinctly watching about 100 videos on YouTube before the government offered any kind of clarification about what CAA actually does. I saw 100 videos saying why CAA is good, why CAA is bad. So citizens were making their own bloody videos before the government offered any kind of proper communication. This is what CAA is. And even the government didn't offer it. A couple of like documents were leaked to the press to ANI from somebody which said, "Oh, this is what the NRC is trying to do." I'm like, why can't you come out and say it with your mouth? Use your mouth, move your jaw and say it.
When they say it, and this is my problem again with the Hindi language, remember, English, for a variety of reasons, I know everybody hates English, but English, because it keeps picking up, it has a fundamental Germanic root and a French vocabulary, a heavy dose of French vocabulary on top, and it keeps adapting new words from different languages across the globe to convey a great deal of specificity and nuance. They keep giving their speeches in Hindi, which is fine, but the nuance gets lost and it is prone to misinterpretation in English. You need to come out, you need to be specific, you need to think about what you're saying. Again, like I said, Modi said they are not in a square inch of our territory. They are occupying thousands of square kilometers of Indian territory. They are not on the Indian side of the LAC. This is the constant problem with nuance, with a lack of being able to understand what the narrative is and being able to counter it in a timely, systematic and comprehensive way. And sorry, but leaking to ANI, I love ANI, God bless them. Unlike PTI, they don't peddle fake news, but leaks are not the way you change a narrative.
Yeah.
Okay. All this does is it gets all of Modi supporters mad and they come vote for him, but it damages India's interests in the long run. It's good for Modi, but it's not good for India.
Yeah, that's fair. Kushal, if you have any questions before I ask a couple, go ahead as well.
No, but I have a slightly different view about communication. I think communication is a slightly more complicated subject because no matter what Modi says, they'll still file forms for him. So what is Modi going to do then? Because
Go on. Sorry, go on.
So I have never seen a single situation in the entire political career of Narendra Modi where whether the letter is written in English or Hindi, I don't think so that matters, because when the opposition is going to find flaws, see, the way the Indian political setup is structured is, and by the way, even BJP used to behave like this when BJP was in the opposition. That's just the way Indian political setup is, that the opposition thinks that our job is to oppose come what may. And even if the government says, look, gravity is real, they'll be like, how do you know? How do you know gravity is real?
So here's the issue. In many ways, the Congress was able to message their packages. UPA 1 was able to message its package way, way better, especially during the nuclear deal. Don't forget that. For a lot of things, for the NSG waiver, which was part of that whole thing, than the BJP has been able to. The BJP, in spite of being in government, has been perpetually reactive. They've never been able to get ahead if as a government you can't get ahead of a messaging, you're fundamentally an incompetent government.
Yeah, I think
I disagree with that.
Yeah,
I think
would-
when it comes to the public messaging and when it comes to the social welfare schemes, the government has been spot on. Otherwise, the numbers don't show that. I don't
The
agree with it.
I agree. Why can't they show the same proactiveness with everything else that they show with the social welfare schemes?
That I'm willing to concede. That if
I'm
that
not
is the
social welfare schemes because that's not my job. I mean, I don't deal with social welfare. Social welfare for me is an abusive word.
No, but I do agree. I feel like you both have a good point there in the sense that the government has been proactive, like you said, with the social welfare schemes. And I feel like the government has been, kind of like proactive with some of the measures that it has passed, like Kashmir and CAA as well. It's just that once you've gone ahead and done that, which are all measures that obviously we're for CAA, we're for abrogation of Article 370. It's how you've handled the situation once you've actually gone and done it. Once you've taken that proactive measure of getting rid of, abrogating Article 370, how have you handled the situation post that? How have you, because you knew there was going to be a communication media bombardment. बम गिरे जाएंगे तुम्हारे ऊपर एक बार तुमने जब ये अनाउंस कर दिया कि एब्रोगेट हो गया 370. उसके बाद how you handle the media, how you handle your communication, how you manage your diplomatic channels to make sure कि अमेरिका को पता है exactly क्या हो रहा है, यूरोप को पता है exactly क्या हो रहा है, so that Europe is not hearing about this nonsense from Washington Post. Europe is not hearing about this nonsense from Imran Khan bloody writing an op-ed in New York Times. Like, that's not how Europe is hearing it. Europe is hearing because India has either a press secretary or the defense minister is doing like regular press conferences, and you're hearing it straight from the horse.
But we're not. Remember, all these promotions are given based on seniority. They're not given based on competence. And when you want to expand it, you today have a smaller foreign service than Singapore does. Singapore has less of a population than Madras does today at the moment. And yet they have a bigger foreign service than India does. Okay. Why don't they want to expand the foreign service? Because everybody in the foreign service wants to become an ambassador. If they expand it, there won't be any room. Only 1 in 3 or worse, 1 in 7 will get to be ambassadors. They don't want that. Okay. And nobody wants to shove this decision down their throat.
Right.
Look, you can't run a government this way. You just can't. Something's got to give. Okay, enough is enough. If after 6 years, if you're still the trained circus chimpanzee dancing to the circus master's tune, I'm sorry.
Yeah.
I mean, look, I'm not even angry anymore. Can you look at my face? I've just given up.
It's more exasperation than anger.
I'm exasperated because what I realize now is we've gone back to the Nehruvian era, where there's no link between performance, accountability, and electoral success. They've been divorced. Performance and accountability can go down, 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 but your vote share is going to go up, 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 because public trust, whatever that is with you. Okay, the way this was explained to me was that apparently somewhere Rajiv Gandhi went and he started yelling at this fellow of why the trees weren't producing apples. And it turned out it was a mango tree. Now, the farmers knew about it, but they still went on cheering for Rajiv Gandhi. Do you know why? Because they were really happy that the IAS officer was getting a shouting. It didn't matter if it was a mango tree or an apple tree.
Yeah.
And that is the problem in this country. You are barking up the wrong tree, and people don't care that you're barking up the wrong tree, just so long as you're barking, because it's that sadistic pleasure of living vicariously through you yelling at somebody else.
Yeah. Kushal, do you agree with that sentiment broadly? I feel like you might have some disagreements.
Well, it depends. See, it's a very complicated thing. See, foreign policy is not my thing. I don't comment on the communication strategy of the government over there. But But I do understand politics. I mean, I've spent 10 years in this, and I've worked on the ground, and I've done elections. So I understand. So communication is a far more complex thing and you can't be a bad communicator and win elections. That I'm not willing to buy. You just can't win elections by being a bad communicator. That I'm not willing to buy. There's just no logic and behind that.
But don't you think there's a difference between like personal communication, the communication that Modi does personally, as opposed to the communication that his government does?
My problem with Narendra Modi and his government is that they have reduced everything down to electoral performance. So if they're performing well electorally, that means they're perfect. That's rubbish. That is what bothers me. This is because, see, if you are opposition, वो कौन सा वीडियो था यार, वो literally मतलब इधर आलू डालो उधर सोना निकला, इधर आलू डालो उधर सोना निकला. जब तुम्हारी opposition ऐसी बात,
आलू डालूंगा पीछे से सोना निकलेगा.
There's potatoes that go into the chip maker and golden chips
सोना निकलता है. Yeah. So point ये है कि अगर तुम्हारी opposition, see what Modi has done successfully today is, just think about it. He has convinced the country Rahul Gandhi is the opposition. Rahul Gandhi is not the opposition actually. Just think about it rationally. The opposition is actually quite different. But he wants the country to be convinced कि ये झेपू opposition है. The perfect word है राहुल गांधी के लिए झेपू. पप्पू नहीं है, वो झेपू है. जो आधी नींद में रहता है. Politics is in your shirt, politics in your pant. पता नहीं क्या है, सोना डालो, आलू डालो, पता नहीं क्या क्या बोली जाता है. My problem with the Modi government is just because your opponent is mediocre, इसका मतलब थोड़ी ना आप इधर आ जाएंगे. आप तो इधर ऊपर आने का aspiration करो. यहाँ पे मुझे दर्द होता है. My pain is different. My pain is, look, when it comes to, if you can communicate, we build these many bathrooms, this is how we're going to build the bathrooms. When you communicated, this is how we're going to give you gas stoves. When you communicated, this is how the jam trinity works. When you communicated, this is how the minority schemes work. You have been spot on, perfect, to the dot, including punctuation marks in all those communications. I know that because I'm part of that. I mean, constituency level pe bhi karte. I know how BJP karyakartas literally go to the last person and they communicate it. I have seen it with my own eyes. They're that good at it. But it's a training issue. I think that BJP doesn't train its cadre, nor are the spokespersons trained. It's like, just think about it. You have an expert like Abhijit. This is not because Abhijit is our friend or anything. Leave the friendship aside. I believe Abhijit is good at it. But tell me, where are the workshops where BJP has literally called Abhijit and said, please train our spokespersons on how to speak on foreign policy? Where has it happened? Ask Abhijit. He's there live right now. एक बार भी हुआ है? That is what hurt.
हम history textbooks की बात कर रहे थे ना 2-3 हफ्ते पहले. We were talking about history की BJP इतना history करती रहती है, हमें बड़ी गलत history पढ़ाई जा रही है. Now they've announced कि हम अपना history overall करेंगे 6 साल के बाद. अब करेंगे कि नहीं करेंगे, we'll see. Still, come on, Abhijit.
Trust me, even when this new book comes out, there will be literally no difference between the new book and the old book. It will be the same thing. It will just be written by somebody else. I remember when I was in DPS, Mathura Road, we had this...
RK-Puram.
Very bad. We don't like RK-Puram.
What are you talking about? It's the best one in bloody Delhi.
Rubbish.
What are you talking about, friend?
You have no class. You RK-Puram people have no class, you know.
Oh, right. That's what they always say about the more successful ones. Oh, you have no class.
You're just fattus who have glasses and study all day. We're the ones that have all the fun and...
you know what I smell, Abhijit? I smell jelly.
Doesn't matter.
Yeah.
We had this principal, I think his name was Dhawan, for about a year or two in between. And he didn't last for very long. And the 7th standard was, it was the 7th standard history textbook, medieval history, suddenly shifted from the CBSE norm and was written by Dhawan. Now, it was the exact same book as the CBSE book because it covered all the same stuff, almost verbatim, but it was written by Dhawan. So it's like that. It doesn't matter who writes your medieval history book. It could be Dhawan or it could be, I don't think it was Romila Thapar that wrote the normal CBSE history book, but it's going to say the same thing. Because you don't have people who are going to give you a proper alternative macro narrative the way, say, Meenakshi Jain could.
Right.
You're not going to get people on board. You've never even tried to get people on board, like, say, True Indology. Why would you? I mean, he hasn't written a book. We don't even know what his real name is, and so on and so forth. But did you even try to reach out to him and try to institutionalize him in the process of starting to change it? You should institutionalize him, provided him with some kind of security, and then said, bye, now you come and help us write this book, because he can give you primary source references for every damn thing and back it up with primary source references. You haven't done it. So who are you going to rely on? You're going to rely on the same people who have had a indoctrination and soaking in the same left-wing histories that you've had for the last 60, 70 years. So trust me, nothing's going to change. It's either going to be the same, or if it comes out with considerably different, I suspect that without proper inputs, it's going to be a joke that's going to be withdrawn in about 2-3 years. And I pity the students that have to study that book.
Let me take a couple of super chats before I let you go, Abhijit. I know you have to rush out, but one of the questions was from, I believe it was Shashidharan Karthikeyan. Shashidharan was asking, Abhijit, do you think the PRC will weaponize Brahmaputra? Is that something that India needs to be worried about?
Absolutely. Look, they went on telling us, they made promises over the last 15, 20 years. They have consistently made promises saying they will not weaponize waters and they will not divert waters. Okay. In fact, their position at lots of international fora was, we are committed to not industrializing Tibet, because industry and industrialization require huge water diversion projects. We will not be doing that to ensure lower riparian flows to all our neighbors. Now, what has happened is they did stop the flow of the Galwan. They told us that all their dams were run-of-the-mill dams. That is to say, they generate hydroelectric power, but they do not stop the water and prevent flow or divert the flow. What we realized from their stoppage of the Galwan is that whatever they have, they are now capable of stopping the flow, and they are willing to do it during a military conflict.
Yeah.
Okay, this has implications for every single river that either starts off in Tibet or is fed by tributaries in Tibet. So all the way from the Indus through the Brahmaputra right up to the Mekong.
Yeah.
You know, by talking more about the Galwan, we should have really created a coalition with all the Southeast Asian states, because every one of them is at the mercy of a river that has its riparian origins in Tibet.
Yeah.
Right? We haven't done that, but anyway, look, it's a starting point. Let's start doing it now.
Sure. One question.
They will, if they've done it now, they will not. We might have deterred them from weaponizing it, but I suspect it's only a matter of time now. If they've weaponized one river, they will do it again.
They'll do it again. This is a question from. Sorry, go on.
Some detail. Sorry. On Brahmaputra, remember, 95 to 98% of the catchment area, of the water catchment area of the Brahmaputra, is on the Indian side in Arunachal, because that is the rainward side of the river, right? However, the flow from Tibet, even for the Brahmaputra, is extremely important, because during the end of the summer months, when the water starts drying up, it is the flow from Tibet that recharges all the aquifers in Assam and places like that, which is very, very important to the local agriculture, especially in outlasting drought conditions, if and when they happen. So it isn't an immediate problem, but it is a persistent and scary problem if they weaponize. They won't be able to weaponize it the way they did Galwan, but it will become a problem.
Shravanveer Kohli is asking, is it possible that regarding the foreign policy, the government communication is weak on purpose? Because they know Congress is going to react to it, and then BJP can call it out as anti-national behavior. This is kind of what, it's kind of what Kushal was saying.
Yeah, the issue is, it's great for the BJP, but it's not good for him.
Yeah.
Okay. And in this, it's not the Congress that's behaving anti-national, in my view.
Yeah.
Even playing these games is anti-national, in my opinion.
Yeah.
You have every right to take a political windfall, but not at the cost of your country.
Yeah, that's fair. Finally, Varun Bhaskar is asking, Abhijit, did you ever offer the BJP cadres any training? Has any of the parliamentarians ever approached you? Is there anyone in parliament you actually like?
I like a lot of people in parliament. I talk to a lot of people in parliament.
Right.
I believe a lot of people in parliament. I have friends across the aisle.
Right.
But have we institutionally started training for the BJP? No.
Yeah.
I have friends in all parties. I sit with them, chat with them. Even now, I've been briefing a lot of them with classified satellite imagery on either why they're right or why they're wrong, and so on and so forth. But the BJP does not believe in training. Okay, we get called to give speeches, but remember, speeches are not training. Training is human investment. You spend, days together. You need some kind of a boot camp where you sit and train people out in these things.
Yeah.
It has to be an interactive process where they challenge you vigorously and viciously to see that if even you are right or wrong.
Yeah.
And that is a process that is required. You can't have this hierarchical sort of reverence for the teacher, and a speech does not impart knowledge. It is the Q&A that follows the speech where the knowledge is imparted. And you need that in iterations over and over and over again for it to sink in.
Yeah.
Okay? They don't understand that. And that is very, very problematic. I've never seen the Congress invest in human beings. They invest in human education. The BJP does not. I don't think they believe in an institution.
Fair. And I had a question that somebody emailed to me. I'm very sorry, I can't remember your name. This is the final question for Abhijit. But they emailed me as soon as I announced that I'm going to be having Abhijit on the show to discuss this. But they asked me, I don't know if I can find it right now, but they asked me basically, could Tibet be free ever?
Yeah, in about 30, 40 years, because China is going to go the way the USSR went.
Really?
You see everything that's invested in the CPEC and in CPEC and in BRI, the Belt and Road Initiative, the China-Pakistan Economic Corridor, the One Belt, One Road, which is now the OBOR, which is now BRI. I keep changing the names. There is not one project in all of that I have been able to see that is economically viable. Wow. They're making all the same mistakes that the USSR made, and they're going to come home to roost. Very, very badly for them. Are they going to break up the same way as the USSR? I certainly hope so, but they're certainly going to face the same economic crises down the line that the USSR is. Remember, China isn't even breaking out of its middle income trap because there's a reason for it. Their per capita income today is about $10,000, which is fine. It's an industrial country. But remember, the real wealth in the West was created when the West broke out from industrialization into the information age, from manufacturing into industrialization, which happened in the from manufacturing to information, which happened in the 1990s. It started off in the 1980s as the digital revolution. Now, manufacturing requires a strong state because the social disruption is so great.
Yeah.
Information and digitization require a weak state. They need the state to take a step back and allow the people to drive the growth. And you hope by this time that the state monopoly on violence has been so great that people know how to control themselves. We're learning from America that they don't know how to control themselves because in the name of social justice, what you basically have are lynch mobs, online lynch mobs and real lynch mobs. But that's what is required. China is unable to the state is unable to take the back seat. In fact, their social controls are growing more and more and more. They are not using technology as an enabler, they're using technology as a controller. And if you use technology as a controller, you are not really going to go past that 10. Maybe you'll get up to $12,000 per capita, but you can't go much further than that because there is a hard limit on it. Second is that they do industrial espionage. Now, industrial espionage teaches you the how, but it doesn't teach you the why.
Yeah.
Okay, it's like a jigsaw puzzle. You can get all the little pieces, but till you have the entire image, which is the why, that is the goal you are trying to reach, you don't know how to assemble it. You don't know what the final image of the 1,000-piece puzzle is. So that is why both the how and the why are so important in technology. They are not doing that. They've got the reverse problem of India. In India, the DRDO's problem is that there is no accountability. Tum bhai develop karte raho, we don't care if you deliver a product or not. In China, you have to deliver a product every 5 years. So there's fake innovation just to keep delivering these products.
Yeah.
And all of research is concentrated onto certain fields. They don't do holistic development across the entire scientific spectrum, which is very, very unhealthy for science. Science is so intersectional, it is not even fun. And I'd suggest you go watch the solution to Fermat's theorem. You know Fermat's last theorem? It is y a square plus b square equals c square. But a to the power anything else plus b to the power anything else will never equal c to the power anything else. It's a simple theorem, but proving it has been one of the most difficult challenges in mathematics. It took 500-600 years to prove it. So there are things like this. China can't go beyond a point. I think China will break up. And you can reverse the kind of homogenization that has been enforced on them. I've traveled extensively in former Soviet Central Asia, and they have, in fact, they've not reversed the Sovietization, but they are slowly re-establishing their national identities.
Right.
That will happen in Tibet, because remember, Tibet was a feudal hellhole before the Chinese took it over. It wasn't the sweet, gentle little place of monks and nuns praying to the Buddha all day, milking yaks and drinking yak butter tea every day. It wasn't. It was a nasty, nasty place. Trust me, you would not have been wanted. Nobody would have ever wanted to have been born in Tibet. Prior to the Chinese coming in, though for a lot of years, even after the Chinese coming in, you wouldn't have wanted to be born in Tibet. But they have modernized a lot. Okay, this is undeniable. Even their mindset is very modernized at the moment, much more so than India, in fact. So it won't go back to the old Tibet, but you will see something new.
Sure. All right, Abhijit, I know you have to dip out, but before you do leave, I think Kushal had something that he wanted to show us to bid Abhijit farewell.
So every time Abhijit comes, this is how people feel, right? So this guy on Twitter, he writes something. Every time I hear Abhijit coming to speak, I see all positivity leaving me, but he's like this, that you can't keep winning. So this is what he wanted to express his emotion. So this is what he said.
मगर फिर भी आप इतनी जिद कर रहे हैं, तो लीजिए, पेशे खिदमत है। ये
God. I think it's a very underhanded but a compliment nevertheless.
It is a compliment. It is a compliment. Thank you so much. But it's just that Indians are so unnecessarily optimistic about everything. I feel the need to rain on your parade.
You need someone to keep them rooted to the ground. I agree.
I'm sorry, I'm bad news, but somebody has to do it.
Somebody needs to be the bad cop. We can't all be good cops. Yeah. Exactly. Somebody needs to be the bad cop. All right, Abhijit. Appreciate you coming on today, mate. We'll have you back on sometime soon.
Har Har Mahadev.
Har Har Mahadev.
Take care, buddy.
All right. So let's take a couple of super chat questions before we move on to some fun stuff.
Oh, Rajat talak ka le le. Mera super chat le lo, mere super chat.
Rajat, let me see, Rajat, if I can find your question, buddy. Give me 1 second. In the meantime,
एक काम करते हैं. मैं तुम लोगों को बताता हूँ, तब तक तुम सुपर चैट ढूंढो. मैं लोगों को बताता हूँ कि पाकिस्तान में क्या चालू है. How Pakistan is fighting Corona. Has anybody seen the great suggestions that are coming from Pakistan to fight Corona? So इतने अच्छे सजेशन आ रहे हैं पाकिस्तान से. एक मिनट रुक, मैं वापस शेयर करता हूँ. एक मिनट, मैं वापस शेयर करता हूँ. मेरे को ऑडियो क्लिक करना पड़ेगा.
भाई शहीदों की जमीन है. इतने बिन लादेन जैसे शहीद की जमीन है.
इतने अच्छे सॉल्यूशंस तो मैंने कभी नहीं सुने मेरी लाइफ में. ये देखो
दल के बारे में तो एक आम मफरूजा है कि अगर इसको खाया जाए तो कोरोना वायरस का बेहतरीन दिफा किया जा सकता है. इसकी अगर रिसर्च करवा ली जाए और ये साबित हो जाए कि टिड्डी दल खाने से कोरोना वायरस पाकिस्तानी कौम पंचा कर देगी.
टिड्डे खाने से कोरोना
भूखमरी की प्रॉब्लम भी सॉल्व हो जाएगी, कोरोना वायरस भी खत्म हो जाएगा.
ना ये नहीं था काफी पाई. टिड्डे खाने की बात नहीं है. देखो मैं ਤੁਹਾਨੂੰ ਦੱਸਣਾ ਇਹ ਹੁੰਦਾ है. ਇਹ देखो पाकिस्तान में एक और कोविड को जैसा मोहतरमा ने एक्सप्लेन किया ना, कोई नहीं कर सकता. सुनो
साउंड डाला कि नहीं इस बार?
ओह सॉरी
साउंड भूल गया यार.
अरे रुक जा.
साउंड आ रहा है अभी.
अब नहीं, रुक जा. अभी मैं तेरे को शेयर करता हूँ ये ऑडियो का बटन. हाँ ये अभी इतना, ये मतलब इतना उम्दा सोल्यूशन है ना. ये सुनो.
ये फ्लू है, कोविड-19 का मतलब है कि इसके 19 वो है पॉइंट से किसी भी तरीके से अप्लाई हो सकता है. अपनी इम्यूनिटी
तो उसका नाम कोविड-19 है, उसके 19 पॉइंट्स हो सकते हैं.
ऊपर आपका है कि जी
एक मैं तुमको सिर्फ एक ही कहना चाहता हूँ. हमने चाइना को डिफीट करने के लिए उसको हाइना टाउन कर दिया. हम हाइनीज फूड खाएंगे हाइना टाउन में. इन्होंने बोला तुम टिड्डे खा लो. वो बोलते हैं हम इसमें भी हम इंडिया को
19 पॉइंट्स पे लगा लो टिड्डे. बॉडी के 19 पॉइंट्स पे टिड्डे लगा लो, खत्म हो जाएगा कोविड. और क्या.
अभी सुपर चैट ले ले.
हाँ, एक ये सुपर चैट है माधव साईनाथ का. दिस इज एन इंपॉर्टेंट इंटरेस्टिंग क्वेश्चन आई सपोज. Madhav Sainath is asking ki should history be made a co-curricular subject since majority of students read it only to get marks and end up reading only about Mughals and Nehru. What do you think?
History should be a co-curricular subject.
Should it be a co-curricular subject?
No, it should be a main subject. I don't agree that it should be a co-curricular subject. It should be a mainstream subject, and we need to realize the importance of history. ये बोलना कि आप history पढ़ते हो और बाद में भूल जाते हो, that's not how it is done. You kind of see, we think that what we learned in school we don't remember anything at all. It's not like that. There are some recall values. Like I think I remember a lot of history that I read during my school days, so I won't agree with that. And history is not just that. History is also narrated in popular cinema, dramas, other shows and stuff like that. So you need history to be taught in school, because history does one job, that is it sets an example of how things were. And then you can kind of place a baseline of how things were at one point of time, and then where you have moved forward. Until you don't know how a baseline of the past, how do you move forward, right?
वही तो बात है. I mean that's the question कि अगर पहले का, अगर आप scientific experiments भी देखो तो people make scientific progress based on the previous information that they have. So similarly with history, if we know previous information, what happened, what people did right, what people did wrong, what mistakes were made in the past. I mean, that's how you make better decisions for the future. So I think learning about one's history I think it's a pretty important thing.
Yeah.
Rajat Talak, there's a question from Rajat. Rajat was asking, can the PLA maintain their current forward position come the winter? As we know, winter is coming.
I don't know. I'm not an expert.
I don't know. Don't worry, Rajat. We'll get Abhijit back sometime and we'll ask him. Yeah, I mean, that's a question that I don't know either of us can answer. But hopefully, we'll probably most likely find out when winter comes.
Can I make a comment about this whole foreign policy thing?
Yeah, go on.
I honestly take a lot of this thing in foreign policy. See, I always say this, and this is with due respects to everybody who's in these fields. Foreign policy, psychology, economics, and diet. These are 4 things where everything should be taken with a pinch of salt. Yeah. Because everything is post hoc analysis. Everything, and especially you have to understand you're dealing with human beings. It's very hard to say what goes on in Modi's head or Xi Jinping's head or in Vladimir Putin's head. This is my first principle take on it. Should it be taken seriously? Absolutely. Is Abhijit right? Absolutely. But beyond the point, I think a lot of things that people make are post hoc analysis, and if you know how good people's predictions fall in foreign policy or in economics, you'll not be a fan of these things in general.
Yes, I agree. So, are you trying to say that nobody really knows anything, not even like the politicians?
Beyond the point,
know anything
मेरे को एक
about-
बात बोलो ना,
हाँ,
if
हाँ,
somebody thinks that India nuclear power, China nuclear power,
हाँ,
you really think war होगी? Really?
most
What
likely
are the
not.
probabilities of war?
Fairly low.
I'm
Every single
being very honest.
हाँ,
Now somebody will come back to me and say, but you know what? After the MAD, mutually assured destruction doctrine, is only been broken once in the Kargil war. In the case of India and Pakistan, that was not a full-blown war. That was also in war. Also, there are certain gradations where you have A type, B type, C type. From what I have understood, the point is, you're not going to have a full-blown war with India and China in this situation. I think it's going to be a trade war. Now, how we take China on in the trade war, because I don't know how many people read the op-ed of Arvind Panagaria, who was of the opinion that we should not be having a trade war with China. Now, I disagree. I think in the case of Huawei and the whole 5G doctrine, we need to make sure that we don't get China in. We should not get China in. I think, look at what Singapore has done. I don't know how many have followed the news. Singapore has chosen other vendors other than Huawei. And I think India should do that. And these are things that we need to do. They're beyond a point. Absolute laissez-faire open market doesn't exist. Even the American market, when it comes to agriculture, is so protectionist. They protect their farmers like anything. So we're going to have to, that's the only thing we have against China. We'll have to, and right now we have such an amazing case where China basically the whole world is mad at them. So more than going to war with China, what India should understand is we should take a chunk of their trade. That's what India should be focused on. I feel, this whole for machismo online where dekh lenge tere ko, kya dekh lega, tu to apne ghar pe baitha hua hai, to tu kya dekhne wala hai kisi ko.
Yeah, that's fair. And again, that was one of the point जो मैं बोलने की कोशिश कर रहा था कि भाई अगेंस्ट द एलिगेशन की इंडिया की कोई प्रोएक्टिवनेस नहीं है या फिर मोदी की बिल्कुल भी कोई प्रोएक्टिवनेस नहीं है, बिकॉज आई genuinely don't think anybody in India really expected for Modi to just come in and remove Article 370 the way he did. Anybody who predicted it is probably 80% of the people who predicted it are probably lying.
अरे 6 महीने पहले तू और मैं गाली दे रहे थे आर्टिकल 370 के लिए यही शो पे.
None of us had any clue कि आर्टिकल 370 हटने वाला है, लेकिन हट गया. अब मैनेज कैसे किया हटने के बाद, दैट्स अ वेरी गुड डिस्कशन. वहां पर क्रिटिसिज्म बिल्कुल जायज है, लेकिन जिस तरह से हटाया है दैट्स अ मास्टर क्लास. उस पर कुछ बोल ही नहीं सकते और किसी ने एक्सपेक्ट भी नहीं किया था. तो आई थिंक मोदी डज डिजर्व मोर क्रेडिट देन ही गेट्स फ्रॉम सर्टेन सर्कल्स. बट while having the conversation कि एक बार उसने डिसीजन लिया तो मैनेज कैसे होता है.
अच्छा, ये मेरे को एक बात बता. ये जो USCRF की रिपोर्टों की बात होती है, ठीक है, जो USCRF की रिपोर्ट्स हैं वो पहली बार आई हैं? कितने साल से आ रही हैं?
लोग हैं
मोदी के पहले भी आती थी. मोदी कितना भी, मोदी एक काम करे, वो अपना सर काट के हाथ में ऐसे रखे, बोले देखो, वो बोलेंगे तूने ऐसे क्यों सर काटा, ऐसे क्यों नहीं काटा,
हलाल नहीं है ये सर.
ये सब बातों में बियॉन्ड अ पॉइंट आप यू कैन नॉट प्लीज पीपल बियॉन्ड अ पॉइंट. आप उनको प्लीज नहीं कर सकते हो. सो आई जेन्युइनली I look at things from a political perspective, not a foreign policy perspective. And my answer on a political perspective is my grouch with BJP has always been on policies, not on communication. Because communication, the way the Indian political structure is built, it is confrontational and catering to the lowest common denominator. To expect anything else is a load of rubbish. बॉस, तुम्हारे पार्लियामेंटेरियंस देखे हैं क्या तुमने लोकसभा में क्या हरकत करते हैं? वो अपनी शर्ट फाड़ रहे हैं, बनैन फाड़ रहे हैं. ये तो तुम्हारा देश है और तुम एक्सपेक्ट क्या कर रहे हो? मतलब लेट्स गेट रियल यार. वी हैव सीन माइक्स बीइंग थ्रोन इन असेंबलीज.
और यार 2004 में याद नहीं है, लोग भारत के बड़े बड़े MP लोग इसके सोनिया गांधी के पैरों पे पड़े हुए थे कि मैडम प्लीज Please, Prime Minister बन जाओ ना, please, please.
अभी देखा है वो जो गहलोत साहब हमारे राजस्थान के सीएम, वो वीडियो कॉन्फ्रेंस हो रही है मैडम जी के साथ, आई विल नॉट सिट इन द क्लास, आई विल स्टैंड इन द क्लास. वो क्या कर रहे हो तुम? चीफ मिनिस्टर हो एक स्टेट के, तुम खड़े हो? व्हाट नॉनसेंस यार. Look, India is a feudal society. We're feudal as hell. आज भी साहब जी, मैडम जी, ये जी, वो जी, भाई भतीजावाद. तो फिर मतलब क्या एक्सपेक्टेशन करनी यार? आप थोड़ा एक्सपेक्टेशन भी तो लिमिट में रखो ना, अपनी औकात वाली एक्सपेक्टेशन करो.
I agree. So let's do some things that we hate and things that we like now. So why don't you go ahead? Do something that you hate, and then
I'll show you something that I hated. I absolutely hated this.
Yeah.
If there was ever the pits of Indian journalism, if ever you could say the worst of Indian journalism, my friends, this is it.
Hi everyone, this is 23rd of June morning. We woke up with very disturbing news. Looks like Times of India, which is a very reputed news channel, have used our photos for a news which is not related to us. This is Shilpi and Amit Agarwal, and looks like they have used it for a news which is related to some other Shilpi and Amit Agarwal from Calcutta, and they've taken from our Facebook page and pasted on their website as well as on their printed newspaper. We just want to let you know that we are doing totally fine. We are, and I just want to thank all the people who are concerned. And at the same time, please help us not spread this fake news. And we are in touch with the news agency to correct this as soon as possible. Thank you.
God.
I mean, what the hell? How can a news channel be so crazy?
Yeah.
What the hell? And as if this was not enough, मतलब हमने क्या है कि हम एक ऐसा गोबर हैं जो we are a gift that keeps giving as a country, right? So I hate this also. So ये पढ़ो, Unilever evolves skincare portfolio to embrace a more inclusive vision of beauty. और चाचा, तू अपने एक प्रोडक्ट का नाम चेंज कर देगा, फेयर एंड लवली से फेयर हटा के लवली कर देगा, तो मतलब उससे कोई चेंज हुआ? तूने मतलब प्रॉब्लम तेरा इंक्लूसिव विजन नहीं था, प्रॉब्लम वाज द प्रोडक्ट इटसेल्फ, यू मोरॉन्स. What kind of a country are we? And look at this country, and I'm telling you, they will not stop selling this product. Why? Because there are so many buyers in the bloody market in India. We're a racist society. We want to be gora, white skin, ऐसे मल के fair and handsome, fair and lovely बनेंगे हम लोग. Stupid people.
एक नंबर के बेवकूफ हैं, एक नंबर के बेवकूफ हैं. Let me take the whatever super chats are left before I tell you my things that I hated. तो Mr. Smart Tech ने कहा CKMKB. Very good, no problem there. Woodland Chaitanya had Guruji कहाँ से घुस गए बीच में. I think he was talking about you when you were between me and Abhijit. So this was earlier in our conversation, I believe. What else? Do we have any others? Tarush was asking, will trade sanctions with China hurt China more or Indian people more? Do you agree with Arvind Panagriya's article in Times of India? So I think maybe you had talked about this, Kushal?
Yeah. So I don't agree with Professor Panagariya completely. I just mentioned it, right? I believe we have to hit China in the trade. We have to be strategic. It is not every time somebody's in it's not like a zero-sum game, right? We can strategically put tariffs on some products, not put tariffs on other products. Why can't we look at our strategic interests? I don't get it. Why is economics a zero-sum game? Every time it is presented as a zero-sum game. No, it's not. It's not like I will ban everything Chinese. No, we're not going to ban everything Chinese. That's just a fact of life. And that's how you maneuver around. That's how trade works.
Yeah.
And that's how it should be.
That's correct. Bunty Neff Star. Why does India not increase its defense budget to 5% of GDP and build a robust defense industry? How long do we have to depend on Russia, USA, and Israel? That's the question that Abhijit was asking, Bunty. That's a very good question. That's a very good point. कि अब भाई अगर आपको the amount of money that you're spending, like he said, that it's equivalent to Great Britain more than Germany and all of those people, the amount of money that you're spending in defense, I think that should give you enough money to also try and set up some domestic manufacturing capabilities. So I think that's a very good point. I think that's something that the government has talked about focusing on, and hopefully we see some results from it soon.
Yeah, it will never happen because India as a country spends 2.8% of their GDP on health. So yeah, so get real. So
Yeah.
India doesn't have money. India needs to become richer as a society. What we need desperately right now is good economics.
Yeah.
When you get good economics, you can invest on healthcare, you can invest on defense, you can invest on these things. You know what you need to do. You don't need to tell the government what they need to spend.
Yeah.
You need to tell the government, change your economic model so that we have more to spend.
Yeah.
Our problem is the kitty is limited. Now we kind of maneuver around in that kitty.
Yeah.
The pool, the resources are limited.
Pool bigger. Yeah.
Yeah.
Need to make the pool bigger. Ashwin Parate asked, I guess the training could be RSS. I think he's talking about BJP cadres getting training from...
So RSS does have a training
Yeah.
center. I've been to that training center. It is called Rambhav Margi Prabodhini. It is, I think, an hour and a half to 3 hour drive away from Mumbai. It is a center where you can stay, and they do conduct workshops. If anybody wants to see, one of the finest workshops that I've seen on the internet are the art of speech making given by the late Shri Pramod Mahajan. Actually, मैं देखने वाली है speech कैसे देनी. So, but what RSS used to do is they used to send people. Call people, like BJP leaders would come and give training sessions over there, and they would do some training sessions. But what Abhijit is saying has never been done. Outside experts are rarely called, and that is something to do with, I think, the feudal mindset of India, where once you go in power, you say, "Tu mere ko sikhayega." Until you don't lose that epistemic arrogance and you become epistemically humble, you will never change. What happens in India is the moment you become a politician, you can't showcase to the world that you don't know.
Yeah.
If you say you don't know, they'll be like, "Abhe tere ko kya politician banaya fir?" That's the problem, and that needs to change. Until that culture doesn't change, we will have problems.
वही है, that culture exists everywhere though. ये politician हो, चाहे आप देख लो expert हो, commentator, political commentator. If somebody brands themselves a political commentator, that means they need to know about everything. हर चीज के बारे में इनको नॉलेज होनी चाहिए. इकोनॉमिक्स के बारे में नॉलेज होनी चाहिए, फॉरेन पॉलिसी के बारे में नॉलेज होनी चाहिए, हर चीज के बारे में नॉलेज होनी चाहिए. एंड आई थिंक इट्स फाइन टू से कि यार मेरे को नहीं पता. इसलिए इकोनॉमिक्स पे जब बात होती है तो मैं बोलता हूँ मेरे को नहीं पता, मैं किसी और को बुला लूंगा, वो बताएंगे.
So I'll give you a live example of something that happened just a day ago. So somebody called me to talk about the India-China issue.
हाँ.
So it's a known podcast. So they said, "Aap aa jao, aap baat kar lo." I was like, "Why are you calling me? I'm not the guy to be called.
Yeah.
I'll tell you people who should be called and I'll introduce you to them." But this attitude, it just doesn't exist in our culture. And social media, basically, you have to comment on everything, right? You have to be an expert on everything. This attitude needs to change, and that is not changing.
Dwaipai and Bose had a question. Is there any chance of war? So I think we've already addressed that question.
Yeah, we've answered that.
And what I'll also say, why I don't think people say Indians want war. I don't think Indians want war as much as you think they want war, because of this comment right here. See, यहाँ war की problem चल रही है, लेकिन Indians को कुछ और ही problem है. Indians are busy with other things. Chinese women are very hot. तो कहाँ से ये लोग war करेंगे? बताइए. Indians तो सिर्फ peace चाहते हैं.
Yes.
We just want peace. Thank you very much, Boom Shankar, for that great gesture of peace.
Yes.
So now let me share something that I hated. I hated this. So let me set a little bit of background for this. So this lady, let me share a little screenshot of her. This lady, her name is Priyamvada Gopal, and she's a professor at Cambridge. So she tweeted out, I'll say it again, white lives don't matter as white lives. And then she doubled down, ki bhai, nahi, main abhi bhi bol rahi hu, white lives don't matter. Then she went a step forward, ki bhai, white lives se inka pet nahi bhara. To uske baad bolne lagi, Brahmin lives don't matter. And Brahmins. तो उस टाइप की चीजें बोलने लगी. So obviously people got upset कि भाई ये क्या तरीका है, and all these colleges they talk about PC culture and cancel culture and all of this. तो इसने ऐसी चीज बोली है, इसको भी cancel करो. So she's employed with Cambridge University. Cambridge University then came out and tweeted this, that the university defends the right of its academics to express their own lawful opinions which others might find controversial, and deplores in the strongest terms abuse and personal attacks. These attacks are totally unacceptable and must cease. तो ये बढ़िया है कि इनको अब इनको समझ में आ रहा है कि फ्री स्पीच क्या होता है, अब इनको समझ में आ रहा है फ्री एक्सप्रेशन क्या होता है, अब इनको समझ में आ रहा है कि चाहे तुम्हारा ओपिनियन कितना भी डिप्लोरेबल हो, कितना भी खराब हो, लेकिन आपको फ्रीडम होनी चाहिए ये बोलने की. दिस इज द सेम यूनिवर्सिटी जो, याद रखिए, जिन्होंने 2 साल पहले जॉर्डन पीटरसन को डिसइनवाइट किया था क्योंकि जॉर्डन पीटरसन हैड सम अनसेवरी ओपिनियंस अकॉर्डिंग टू कैम्ब्रिज यूनिवर्सिटी. Do you think Jordan Peterson said anything that was close to white lives don't matter? Nowhere even close to something like that.
I think Rita Panahi's tweet below that,
Yeah.
I think sums everything up. This is a big pile. This is one big pile of shit.
Yeah.
But I just recently did see. But again, how much does our side read?
Yeah.
Why is Priyambada Gopal the way she is? Why?
Probably a lot of reasons, to be honest.
No, the reason is what they read, what they teach. Who is she? She is in the post-colonial studies department.
Yeah.
What does this post-colonial studies depend on? What hermeneutics do they use? What are the toolkits in their arsenal that they use to deconstruct every society?
Yeah.
And guess what? And I just recently did a monologue titled Reversing the Gaze, and I explained what is happening in our side. So I had made this prediction that there is this left-wing Hindu circle in America. They're desperately, see, the overall societal zone has shifted from a culture of individual, machismo or honor, whatever, where, in the old days when we were growing up, we would be like, okay, one-on-one thapad marte ek dusre ko and settle kar lete. It was basically, that was the culture. Now the entire Western societal, and now the disease has come to social media and our political culture too. It has become a culture of victimhood. So in that, what is the toolkit? Until we don't understand the toolkit is critical theory. The toolkit is postmodernism. The toolkit, if you use that toolkit, you become like that. And our side uses it. मैं तुझे कितनी बार बोल चुका हूं, हमारी साइड भी ये करेगी. ये कम से कम कंसिस्टेंट थी. इसने क्या किया? इसने रियलाइज कर लिया कि मैंने व्हाइट लोगों को तो बोल दिया, मगर मैं तो ब्राह्मण हूं, तो चलो ब्राह्मण लाइव्स आल्सो डोंट मैटर. इसको क्वेश्चन ये पूछना चाहिए था, अपने आप को मार देगी क्या?
Exactly. What are you going to do? Are you going to jump off the roof of Cambridge? Yeah.
The problem is the mindset. What makes you like that? We have to reject those things.
Yeah, that's fair. And why don't you do something that I don't know if you did it already, but did you do something that you liked?
So there are 2 things that I liked and 2 things that, first, so every time we come on this show, we try to show you every time we want to show you something amazing that is happening in the West, right? Because we love the West. And so today's Tweedledee and Tweedledum is going to be this. It's just amazing. So, I mean, kya discourse hai udhar? I love this. I love the discourse.
Oh yeah, I saw this.
So, isko start se dekho.
I don't wear a mask for the same reason I don't wear underwear. Things gotta breathe.
Woo!
Yeah. They gotta breathe.
Throw God's wonderful breathing system out the door. You're all turning your backs on it.
In the beginning, God formed man out of the earth and
God.
breathed his breath in him, and he became a living soul. Where do you derive the authority to regulate human? What you say is a political dogma that they're trying to shove down our throats on every commercial and every store, and it's disgusting.
Every single one of you that are obeying the devil's laws are going to be arrested. And you doctors are going to be arrested for crimes against humanity.
Let me ask you all, do you believe you're God? Do you believe you can override God's divine plan for our lives? You're removing our freedoms and stomping on our constitutional rights by these communist dictatorship orders or laws you want to mandate.
So this was one side of the story. You might think, wow, crazy people.
Yeah.
So, but there's a new religion in town which is competing with the old religion.
Look at this. Dogma is Jack Ma's dog. This is a comment of the week, Boom Shankar. Well done.
So as if that was not enough, right?
Yeah.
So as if that was not enough. So the new religion says, hold my beer to the old religion, right?
Yeah.
So that was Christianity. This is Christianity 2.0. This is the new one. Look at this lady. So
The privilege of power is white.
Yes, sir. A white person.
We're done. My black wife
This is a white girl talking to a police officer.
Just because you're one black person or a black white, you can still be racist. It has nothing to do with your acquaintances.
Oh, great.
Wow, it must have been so intimidating if all the police viewed that way. That's impressive. Just as a little child.
It's not intimidating. It's just like you're trying to have a conversation. You have a one-track mind. There's no point to have that
Amazing.
conversation.
Everyone moved that way.
You have to be able to be open to both sides of the
Amazing,
story.
sir.
Your
Everyone
belief is
moved
your
over.
side, and that's it.
Impressive. They couldn't even
So
handle
you
it.
can't have a
They couldn't
conversation
handle it,
because
sir. I wasn't talking to you, sir. I was talking to white dudes.
Oh, because I can't be racist, right?
No, sir. I was talking to him.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, it doesn't fit your agenda.
Systemically, sir. Systemically.
Racism can only be white, systemically, sir.
Oh, God.
So this is the problem. Did you hear her carefully? She indirectly took the agency away from the black guy. Even in this, she said, "Tu ho hi nahi sakta. Tere mein agency nahi hai." She took away his agency. What a great lady. So yeah, so this was amazing stuff from the West. So you have something, because I have two other things which we'll leave at the end.
Okay, so let me share a couple of things quickly. This is a great thing from Global Times. Global Times been in such good form. इतना फॉर्म में है Global Times पिछले 3-4 दिनों से. Global Times का ये आर्टिकल देखो, headline. Reason why China did not release casualty number is because China also wants to avoid an escalation. If China releases the number which is less than 20, then the Indian government would again come under pressure.
Oh, wonderful.
I was saying this to you offline as well, and I'm going to say it to you guys now. कि भाई ये वही बात होगी कि मेरा फ्रेंड मेरे को बोलता है कि यार मैं एग्जाम में फेल क्यों हुआ, मैं तुमको बताता हूँ. मैं फेल इसलिए हुआ क्योंकि मैंने एग्जाम के लिए पढ़ाई नहीं की. मैंने एग्जाम के लिए पढ़ाई इसलिए नहीं की क्योंकि अगर मैं एग्जाम के लिए पढ़ता तो मेरे 100% मार्क्स आ जाते. अब मेरे 100% मार्क्स आ जाते तो मेरे फ्रेंड्स को कितना बुरा लगता. मैं अपने फ्रेंड्स की इतनी कदर करता हूँ, इसलिए मैं फेल हो गया. मैं क्या करूं, मेरा दिल बहुत बड़ा है. दिस इज जस्ट अमेजिंग. इसके नीचे आई थिंक स्किन डॉक्टर का एक बड़ा अच्छा हाँ ये रहा. I can run 100 meters in 7 seconds, but I'm not revealing it as it might put pressure on Usain Bolt and affect his confidence.
Oh God!
ग्लोबल टाइम कमाल के फॉर्म में यार, कसम से.
अरे ग्लोबल टाइम है ना, एक होता है वो उड़ता तीर खुद ले रहा है, ऐसे तीर जा रहे हो बोलते इधर आ, मैं लेता हूँ.
So this is the second one that I wanted to quickly share. This is from Times Now. Tell me if you can see something wrong with these pictures. So this is Times Now asking, do you think Indian government has taken suitable steps to give China a reply? Yes, 39.8, no, 60.2. ग्राफ देखो. Even I said कि यार, even I tweeted, I remember.
तेरे को याद है किशोर कुमार की एक बड़ी फेमस कहानी है, मैंने एक इंटरव्यू में देखी थी. तो किशोर कुमार कैसे करता था, उसका एक स्टाइल होता था. वो क्या करता था, उसका एक्शन होता था, कद्दू काट नींबू बनाया. ऐसे बोलता था, जानबूझ के करता था, कद्दू काट नींबू बनाया या कुछ करता था किशोर कुमार. ये वो हरकत है. 39 and 60.
3960 अबे कंट्रोल है।
ओ यार क्या जीनियस लोग हैं। मगर देखो अभी हमारी जिंदगी में आज मैं तुम्हें फिर से दो चीजें दिखाने वाला हूं। अभी पहले कि जो लोग जो ये टिकटॉक वाले हैं, ये जो ये क्या लोग हैं, देखो ये वाली जो बहन है ना, इसके डांस को जरा ध्यान से देखना।
तो लेडी तो माता जी है, डांस कर रही है, टिकटॉक बना रही है, पीछे से आके कुत्ते ने काट लिया।
उसने बोला टच मी टच मी टच मी, कुत्ते ने बोला आ टच किया तुझे। कुत्ते ने बोला आ गया, मैं कितना टच करा तेनू। कुत्ते ने टच कर दिया। मैं बोला बहन तुझे कुछ हो तो नहीं क्या, मगर सबसे बेस्ट। मगर अभी हम लोगों को कोई डर नहीं है। इंडिया हो, चाइना हो, सोशल जस्टिस वॉरियर्स हो, हमें बचाने के लिए हमारे को सुपर हीरो मिल गया है और आज हम शो को इससे एंड करेंगे। ठीक है जी, हमें हमारा सुपर हीरो मिल गया। शाउट आउट टू द गाइज एट डेली हंट। आई थिंक दिस स्टफ, एक मिनट रुक, मैं फिर से चेक कर लेता हूँ क्योंकि मेरे को बीमारी हो गई है ऑडियो नहीं शेयर करने की, तो मैं फिर से डबल चेक करके मैं कर रहा हूँ। आई थिंक दिस गाय हु हैज मेड दिस वीडियो, द डेली स्विच, शाउट आउट टू देम।
My child is not building. Help! इसे कौन बचाएगा? Look, it's liberal man.
Liberal man.
Liberal man, मेरे बच्चे को आग से बचाओ. Ah, fire! That old oppressive force, the fascist enemy, the patriarchal. जल्दी. Okay, fill out this form. Are you a minority? Are you LGBTQ? Do you hate Narendra Modi? मेरी सर्विसेज सिर्फ सबसे oppressed clients के लिए रिजर्व्ड हैं. My daughter is only 4 years old. Oh, daughter, फिर तो sexism की victim होगी. Don't worry, I'll save her. Behold. Here's my Mombatti of vengeance. हम candlelight march करेंगे. What? No good? Here's my Duckly of doom. What are you doing? Here's a letter written by 500 intellectuals condemning fire. Oh my God, you're completely useless. Here's some Kudrati biryani. Oh God, child is stuck in the building. Help! इसे कौन बचाएगा?
This is pretty amazing.
This was the best. ये जिसने भी बनाया है इतने अमेजिंग है ये वीडियो। ऐसे लास्ट बोलता है ना, कुदरती बिरयानी खा ले, कुदरती बिरयानी खा ले, बेटी गई। Oh God, I mean, seriously, it was so nice. It was so nice. मैंने देखा वाला यार, दिल खुश कर दिया तुम लोगों ने, दिल खुश कर दिया जो भी ये बंदे थे। Shout out to the Daily Hunt या whatever.
Well done, guys. Liberal man की जय हो. All right, guys, I hope you enjoyed today's show. We better leave it there. As usual, if you enjoy it, if you laugh along with us, if you feel angry when you watch us, if you feel disgusted when you watch us, anything you feel, let us know. Comment, like, share, subscribe, abuse, all of that fun stuff. Let us know however you feel. We will see you as usual next week for our podcast. In the meantime, thanks a ton, Kushal, for doing it.
Thank you everybody. Please look out for Liberal Man. He's the one who can save you.
He's the one who can save us all. He's our salvation. Thanks, guys, again. We will catch you same time next week, and until then, stay happy, stay healthy, and we will see you guys soon. Bye-bye.